Hello, everybody. What is up? You are live on the Zach and Matt show. Matt here, and we have a very special guest today, Heidi Briones, who is running for United States Congress out of Oregon's 1st Congressional District. Heidi, thank you very much for coming on the show.
No, really, thank you for having me. Huge fan of the show. Definitely get the song stuck in my head constantly just from watching your videos, and drives my wife insane. But I just love it. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before we get started, I was just joking with you, and before we start the interview, it's been kind of a hectic situation getting to this point because I think we set up twice already, and then I had to cancel, so I apologize for that. But everybody in the Yang Gang has been saying, interview Heidi. She's the best ever, and
I
so
love it.
I'm glad to finally be here speaking with you. So my first question for you is, for those who maybe aren't as familiar with you, aren't in the Yang Gang Twitter hive, as we call it, what can you tell us about yourself? Like, where did you grow up, and kind of tell us more about a little bit about your earlier life before getting into politics.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Orange County, California. So the border of LA and Orange County, actually. I grew up in a suburb there. Pretty just middle class, normal environment, just told to do the normal things, do well in school, and go to college, and everything will kind of be okay, and you'll get a great job, and just the economy of the 80s and 90s kind of dream that we were experiencing it. So I was always into politics, though. I've always been kind of a political junkie. My first job was as a legislative aide in Sacramento. So when I was in high school, I went and worked for my aunt, actually, who's a state senator. Other than that, I played tennis. I was, really into tennis. I played that since I was a little girl. So I played with my grandpa. He taught me everything. And then I played it in high school. Other than that, I was on like a debate team, pretty much my other extracurricular. Loved public speaking, excelled at that type of thing. But then I actually, I went to school for politics. So I got my bachelor's in political science. It was my main interest.
So this leads into my next question. Darla wants to know, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm actually 36. I'll be 37. Yeah, I'll be 37. So I'm an old millennial. I'm a zennial.
So when there's a perfect lead-in, because when I was reading on your website earlier, and it seemed like that you graduated from I think you went to 2 schools in California, and right around the time you graduated is when the 2008 financial crisis was either just about, I don't know the exact timeline, 36.
Ramping up. Yeah.
But I guess a tough time to graduate, and probably a lot of people can relate to that. And now, as we're having this happen again, it seems like with another financial crisis, what are your thoughts on that in the current crisis, and also how did graduating with student debt and student loans in the past crisis influence where you are today?
I mean, massively. I mean, like I said, I grew up with hearing that if you go to college and do well, you're going to graduate, there's going to be a job for you. And at a time that was the case. So, but when I graduated, yeah, the housing market was starting to crash. Job prospects were not great. I think I was working at a gym when I actually decided to leave the country. I was working selling gym memberships. That was like the only job I could get out of college. And it was fine. Like, I got a free gym membership, so I was super ripped, and it was fun. but other than that, I was just like, this is bleak. Like, every single day, it was like the housing market's crashing. My dad was like, I don't know, I think we might lose our house. And he had a really nice house in Orange County. I was used to like a certain kind of lifestyle that, like, it was all inflated. It was all just fake. It was like not real. Like, people were buying houses that they couldn't afford, and then interest rates went up and everything, and payments ballooned. And everybody pretty much lost a lot of things they had. So that was the environment that I was in, was just like sort of middle class, trying to kind of break up into like upper middle class, and then everything crashed down to like to the point where we're now like struggling. And, you know, my whole family was hit by that. We lost, you know, a lot of different things that we had that made you feel secure in our economy. So I decided, my original plan was to go to law school, but I decided I don't know, I was just feeling, I felt like, what would I do if I would, I mean, it's kind of a bleak, dark thing, but I often think this, but it's just like a stoic kind of thing. What would you do if you were going to die? In, you know, a couple years? Let's just say, like, you know, you're not going to make it past a year or 2 years or 5 years. What would you be really upset that you didn't do? And the only thing I could think of was travel. So I tried to think of a way that I could somehow travel with just virtually no money. And I was like, what can I do? Like, maybe I have to get a job. Okay, I'll get a job abroad. What kind of jobs are there? So I just figured it out, searched the internet, and I was like, oh, I can teach English. I have a bachelor's. I can do that. So I found a job, and within about 6 weeks, I was on a plane to Taiwan, and spent most of the economic crash outside the country, trying to, you know, kind of avoid it. Basically just an avoidance, and teaching and learning about different cultures, and trying to expand my mind and come back with a new perspective when I got home.
That's really interesting. Traveling abroad at such a young age, you can definitely gain a lot of perspective.
Yeah.
It looks great.
I got to get my hair right, though. You know what, the mirror thing, when you're like, you're trying to fix your hair.
Yeah. Well, I think I've seen Andrew Yang with worse, not, I don't even mean, more disgruntled hair sometimes.
I'm trying to get it to.
So it should be. It's about the words that I think people should focus less on what people look or who they are, and more what their personality and policies are. So
absolutely, no, I agree, but it's still like when you've been self-quarantined, you know, and you're like, do I look okay? Like I haven't looked in the mirror like very often. Like, we don't have to go out every day, so I'm a little bit like, all right, make sure I at least look clean.
So it looks like George is really vibing with this so far, because he would like to know your donation link, and then Mark, he did the generous duty of providing the link, and then George donated $10 to your campaign.
George, thank you so much, George. That means a lot. Every donation counts so much right now. We're trying to figure out you know, what resources we have to win votes, and it's coming up really quick, so no donation is too small. If you could throw in $1, like, we're going to use it very wisely and make sure we win some votes in District 1 for sure.
So, how did after the 2008 financial crash and your experiences traveling abroad, what led you to getting into politics, and when did you first hear about universal basic income, which would be one of the central policies that you would be pushing should you be elected to Congress?
Absolutely. I actually heard about universal basic income, I guess unironically, when I was working on a semi-automatic production line at the Tesla factory outside of Reno, Nevada. We were helping to build the Model 3 battery modules. So there was a huge production push at the time. They hired a ton of people to do it. I was pretty interested. I really honestly just wanted to see like what the Tesla factory and what it looked like. And it just seemed really cool to be in there. So I was there actually working on a line that was semi-automatic. We were working in line with robots, essentially, like a machine. And we would help it along, you know, just doing very simple, repetitive, you know, mind-numbing work, just doing like the same thing over and over again, which is what most people do in factories. And then they were trying to fully automate this. They were having a little bit of problems fully automating it. They expected it to be a fully automated process with just one person running an entire machine, able to produce these battery modules, but they weren't able to do it quite quickly enough. And I mean, Elon actually came by like our production line several times, took a look at things. And
oh, wow.
I saw him there literally 2 feet away from me, which was crazy. And I'm just like, this is insane. And then around that same time, I came across universal basic income. I thought about it before, like I read some just obscure academic study maybe like a few years back, and I was like, yeah, that's important. But then I was just like, something came up with Elon talking about it, on YouTube, and I was like, oh, interesting. And I dove a little bit deeper into it, and I'm like, okay, other people are talking about this. Wow, this would be really great. Too bad it's not going to happen anytime soon. Like I hope it happens in my lifetime, but probably not. And then stumbled upon Andrew Yang's campaign. It just the YouTube algorithm pointed me right at him. He was talking about universal basic income. So thank you, YouTube algorithm. Appreciate that. Yes, and then that was like February, I think, of last year. So then I was like, okay, there's somebody actually running on this. This is crazy. Like, what's he like? And I just dove deep, and I was like, oh, he actually has other good ideas. And I really like the way his mind works. And I love the way he thinks. And he's such a cool politician. He's like this left libertarian, which is how I've defined myself, as more of a left libertarian. And I've never seen anybody run really on that platform, which is, unfortunate, because I was like, everybody always runs like more left authoritarian or right libertarian. I hadn't seen that. And I was like, this is so cool. He's like my perfect kind of politician. Like, I wanted somebody to run on this like for so long, and these concepts, and he did it. And I was just like, man, I'm all in. So I was an early adopter, definitely got really involved, was early into text banking, and created Lesbians for Yang, my Twitter account, originally with my wife, and tried to make some content, and got involved as much as I could, met him, sold merch for him at his events, like just been pretty into it. So pretty hardcore Yang gang. I don't really like using that term, but it's, that's how I describe myself.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And you ended up doing kind of a significant volunteer role there for the Oregon Yang gang, right?
Definitely I did a few things, but I wasn't as significant as other people in the Oregon and the PDX Yang gang. I did most of my stuff online, so I did a ton of text banking. I did do volunteering when he came in. I sold his merch. I did go to a few different volunteer events where we were canvassing. I've been to probably half a dozen canvassing events where we talked to people face to face, handed out business cards. But I could have had bigger presence locally. That's one thing I regret. I wish I would have had more of a presence in our local groups. I did a lot of stuff online just because that's more natural to me. And I also work full time always, and it's a little bit difficult to always make it to every single event, and also have a life with like a spouse.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Everything else, but
work-life balance.
Thank God for the internet. Thank God for the internet, so I could stay in touch. And I was more active on Twitter and text banking primarily. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to know is because one of the things I find interesting is kind of reflecting since the campaign's been over. I've been wanting to ask this to kind of a lot of people, really just anyone in the Yang gang. What is something that you feel could have gone differently in the campaign to make it successful? But then also, how did your experience as kind of a supporter and hardcore Yang gang, as you said, volunteer, how does that impact your own candidacy, and just really, what have you learned from Yang 2020 to today?
That's a loaded one. Quite a lot. Obviously things could have gone better. I think we all feel that way. I think that we feel like it was a missed opportunity. It was a missed moment. It was this beautiful moment in time, and we could have taken it further, but I don't know, maybe we couldn't have. Maybe it's not the right timing, and sometimes that's how it works. And this was a very tough year. Come on, This is incredibly difficult. Not that his message wasn't clearly on point, which is only obvious based on what's going on right now with COVID-19. Obviously his policies were on point. Obviously, like he was on point. His messaging was. It's just like maybe he's just a little bit before his time as far as certain people recognizing that vote, which is like a lot of people that vote aren't quite there yet. So that's the tough part. And I think that's also the tough part for me and for other down ticket candidates. It's still the same people that vote. They're older. They're a little more conservative. They're a little less open-minded. They're a little more like, I just want more of the same status quo. I don't want to shake things up too much. I don't necessarily want an outsider. those types of perceptions are very hard to overcome. And I think that that's something that I wish we would have gotten the messaging a little more palatable, to the point where you would have had the larger, broader acceptance and coalition, to where we could have had more sustainability. However, again, maybe it just wasn't the right time, which could just be, it could have not mattered exactly what we did because of other factors. So, I mean, what I've learned from the campaign is how we can harness technology and very passionate supporters to actually go out and win votes. And I've learned to be open-minded. I've learned to try to relinquish some control and ideas, and be very open to my volunteers or supporters giving me new ideas, and just like, hey, maybe I'll go with that. And, you know, just trying to roll with it, and just anybody that supports me at any level can get involved in my campaign. And that's been really fun. And to me, it's a perfect moment to be a down ticket Yang Gang campaign, because you have that support. You really do. You have the Yang Gang, you have killer volunteers, and you are able to do some really cool things right now with technology. So it's an exciting time, and I definitely learned a lot.
Yeah, I think referring to what you said about Andrew, he was the longer than long shot guy who had zero name recognition, so he had to be damn nearly perfect. And unfortunately, not. It's very rare that something goes perfectly. But you referred to volunteering for your campaign. Is there a section on your website where people would be able to sign up and volunteer, especially right now? I mean, how are you even getting the message out, you know, with the current situation? Because you can't go out and campaign and meet with people.
That's what's killing me, mainly because as a grassroots candidate, I want to be like pounding pavement, knocking doors. That was like my vision. Just when I started my campaign in February, was like, all right, come April, I'm going to be out there like knocking on every door and like talking to people and like making myself known. And that's just not something that's possible or feasible or safe right now. So I'm not doing that. Obviously, it's 100% digital. So what we're doing is, you know, we're focused on Facebook ads as we're getting that going. We have to get some things together to do that right, but we got the timing, we got the structure, we got approved for that. So that's positive. We can do a lot of things on Facebook, which is where a lot of people are spending their time. We also have some other mobile campaigns going to reach people outside of Facebook, specifically on other mobile platforms that they might be on, such as games that they might be playing or websites they might be viewing. So we're doing some of that. We have email campaigns going. We have that structure. Yes, that is where you go to join my team. Please join. I really appreciate it. You do not have to put your address in there. So some people, I think, haven't been doing it, but you don't have to do that. You only need to put your name and email and what you want to do. Just forget about putting your address in. We really need phone bankers. I know it's annoying and a lot of people don't want to do it, but we do need that. We definitely need people in District 1 that want to put a yard sign up on their home. That would help a lot. I ordered a bunch of yard signs and I want to get them on people's houses. I do not want to just throw them on a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
If I don't have to, I'd rather them be at somebody's home. So I'm trying to get 150 people to put yard signs up on their house, which would be killer. And we're doing mailers as well, targeted mailing, because it's very expensive. But we are going to do some mailing as well. And luckily, we're vote by mail in Oregon. So still a whole lot of things that we can do. And there's going to be just the same amount of turnout as normal, is what we're predicting.
Yeah. Your election is on May 19th, or?
It is. Since we're vote by mail, though, what happens is voters get their voters pamphlet around April 22nd. So that will have information about all the candidates that are running. It's a nice little book that they get, and they can read about me. I made it into there. It took me 300 signatures or $2,500. So I got the signatures. So I'm in there. They're going to learn about me, hopefully get pointed to my website, go into Google, which if you Google me right now, it's looking pretty good. I do have quite a bit of content on there. So I'm only looking to increase that as people get their voters pamphlets. I'm hoping that'll point them online and they can find some really good content about me. And then they get their ballots about a week later. and they can start filling those out, mailing them in, and they can also drop them off on May 19th. But we do expect most people will probably have already voted by May 19th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that certainly makes sense. I'm looking through your website right now, and I really like you have these video explainers on all your signature policies: universal healthcare, universal basic income, democracy reform. And it looks really great. So definitely,
Thank you.
guys, if you are bored during this coronavirus thing, you feel like you're going insane, which many of us are, and you want to take your mind off things, I mean, sign up in Phone Bank. A lot of people are at home. They're more than willing to have a conversation during this time. A lot of people are just want any socializing they could get at this point. So
For sure.
if you want to help support the grassroots Yang Gang candidates that are rising up to try to bring the policies that we all loved in Andrew's campaign, Phone Bank and Text Bank. And if you can't do that, consider donating as well.
Absolutely.
What is there anything? I know that you're definitely pretty much probably on board with nearly every Andrew Yang policy, but everybody is always has a unique perspective. What is maybe an area that you do disagree with Andrew on?
It's hard to say. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say disagree. That might be a little strong, but there were things that I would have a different approach on. I think that he really had a hard time with his healthcare policy. That really went kind of the wrong way.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, he should have just been more straightforward and clear. I think it just got convoluted. And then having Medicare for all up on the site and then kind of backtracking on it really turned a lot of people off, which I just didn't think was necessary. I mean, I just think the pivot could have been a little more clear. So I'm kind of just like clear about what I think. I mean, I think that we do need universal health care. It can be called Medicare for all if you want. That's the best bill I've seen so far on it, and it's pretty good. I mean, I've read the bill a few times. I don't agree with everything in there. I would allow for private insurance, but sort of more like Tulsi Gabbard's style with a private option. But I mean, it's pretty good, and I don't think there would have been anything wrong with just sticking with that and saying, yeah, but we need to do these things first. So he could have been a little bit more clear about that, and just more succinct. And that's what I've tried to do in my healthcare for all section there, and just being like, hey, this is what I think. We got to change it from fee-based model to value-based, which was part of his plan as well that I really liked. And we need to have it for everybody, obviously, and we should have a private option, just very clear. So that's, I guess, one. It wouldn't be a disagreement, just kind of like, hey, we could have done this a little more clear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I think that he wasn't super clear with his foreign policy either, which is tough. I mean, that's not really his expertise, and it's it's a tough issue. It's not like it's easy to navigate when you don't have that knowledge base. He's excellent at domestic. Foreign policy was a little hard. So as someone running for Congress, I mean, I do need to have foreign policy stances, of course, but you know, as a president, that's like huge because you're going to be the commander in chief.
Absolutely.
So I think if I were him, I would have like just kind of been a bit more clear about that as well. So it's not really a disagreement. I don't have any like major disagreements with any of his policies. It was just sort of clarity and consistency and just making it very easy for people to understand.
Mm-hmm. What is when you said that I guess of all the proposed plans out there, you'd say right now you're on board with Medicare for all, but you also said that if maybe, you know, in an ideal world the bill wouldn't ban private insurance. Why do you feel that way? Like, would you be able to explain?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a licensed insurance agent or broker. So I deal with private insurance, and basically there's things that Medicare right now, if you just look at Medicare, let's just forget other things let's just look at Medicare for all, assume that's the way we go. There's things that Medicare doesn't cover, and there's things that, you know, Medicare can't cover. And that's why the private market exists, so that you can have that supplemental coverage. So, for example, people get prescription plans for their Medicare because Medicare might not have the prescription coverage they need. People get, accident policies or other things because healthcare, like if you have a health issue, you have other financial expenses in your life because of that health issue. So you may have other gaps in coverage that you need taken care of that Medicare might not fill. And that's why they invented Medicare Part D and these gap programs to fill those gaps. So I think it's important that we, have private insurance options available as supplements. So basically, it's just that if you understand the way that the insurance world works and that healthcare doesn't cover every single expense that somebody has when they're sick, then I think you need to consider that the private insurance industry still has a role to play. And they are playing right now with Medicare. If you say we're going to get rid of private insurance, that's really going to upset a lot of people on Medicare right now. Forget about the people that have it with their jobs or that purchased it or got it through a union. Think about the people that actually like their private supplements with their Medicare because it helps them with their out-of-pocket expenses because Medicare doesn't cover 100% of it. So even if we had a Medicare system that did cover 100% of it, which is in Medicare for All, that there would be no copays or no out-of-pockets, okay, you still have expenses when something happens to you. Like if you have cancer, if you have an accident, you're not going to work. Like you still need private insurance to fill other gaps. So I think it's a little bit far-reaching to just completely destroy the entire private insurance industry because a lot of those, it's all about financial coverage. It's not really about healthcare. It's about financial coverage, and people should be able to purchase financial coverage if they want to, additional coverage. So I would just consider it more as like have private insurance still supplement our Medicare system, and it also will prevent overloading our medical system and some gaps as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I don't think it's one of the distinctions that I liked about Andrew's campaign is I felt like he really looked at the data and the solutions, and that was kind of where the mix-up with his healthcare was. People just got confused between the Medicare for All terminology and the private and not banning private insurance. It's one of those things back from the campaign that is kind of not something that is fun to talk about because it reminds you of some Twitter wars back in the day. But
well, I wish people were more nuanced, but yeah.
For sure. Darla has another question. She wants to know, are you a vegetarian?
Whew,
kind of like out of the box, but
yeah, I was a vegetarian for a long time, but I'm not currently. No, I'm not currently a vegetarian. My body doesn't do so well on it overall. So, but I do try to eat vegetarian at least a few days out of the week. I do think that we should reduce our meat consumption dramatically for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm. Would it be for due to things like climate change or?
Yeah, I mean, I was always more of like an ethical vegetarian. So I was always just more like against factory farming. So I think that there's the environmental aspect of it too. I mean, overall, just food is really tough on the environment. So this, either way, production of mass amounts of food is pretty difficult. But yeah, there is definitely that impact. There's also health reasons. It is better if you have less animal products. You don't have to completely eliminate it, but it is better if your diet is primarily plant-based. Just basing it on plants, focusing on adding the good rather than taking away the bad, which I think is a good philosophy overall, is to like focus on adding more good things instead of just no to bad things, because then it just becomes very negative and a bit too difficult to sustain and kind of turns a lot of people off. I know I turned a lot of people off because I was a very militant vegetarian. like you pretty much either became a vegetarian if you were friends with me in college, or you like couldn't hang out with me because I was pretty bad. Like I was pretty bad for a while, but I was also like 19, so
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's just one of those weird ones. People get very passionate about on both sides of it. The issue, anti-vegetarians versus vegetarians, and I say, just allow people to do what they want and as they please. Ted said, "Wow, that's very enlightening. Go Heidi about your healthcare argument." And
thanks, Ted.
Where is this comment? Let me take. Chef Zoot, who did a concert for Andrew Yang back in New York City in, was it early December, late February, or no, late November, said that was the most understandable and reasoned critique of MFA that I've ever heard.
Thanks, Chef Zoot. Wow, that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. My next question is about something a little bit more personal. If you were elected to Congress, you would be the first openly gay representative from the state of Oregon.
Yes.
How does that make you feel? How would that make you feel? And what does it mean for those who are part of the LGBTQ community to overcome barriers such as getting more representation in Congress?
I think it's absolutely huge. I mean, I think that, I'm a very policy driven person, but I think that I would be making a massive error if I didn't recognize that representation is important. It's clear that our representatives don't look like the people, and that's a problem. Like, you have to have the experiences of the people to fully represent them. And that's part of my campaign theme, is that, I want to represent the normal person and what they've been through. And part of that would be representing myself as a lesbian woman and identifying as that, and supporting my community and raising that representation from literally 0.1%, which is obscene to me, and raising that, bringing that awareness. And then the cool thing is, where it gets really fun is, I get a bunch of press for being the first openly gay, representative of Congress. And then that leads into how did you do it? Well, these are my policies. And I think that if you, can harness identity and bring it towards policy, then you can do some really cool things. I think that people are just being like, oh, you have to only be policy or only be identity. And it's like, no, like, these are both parts of like who you are. Like, everybody has an identity. Like, who are you? Where'd you come from? What do you like? And then what are you about? Like, what do you want to do? Like, how are you going to help? And I think if you bring those together, it can be really cool. But if you focus on just one, then I think it's like, it becomes either too wonky if you're just all policy and you're not a person, or it becomes too like, it's just all about who I am, and that's just support me for me. And you don't want to be either one. So it would mean a ton to me, because it would mean that, people had representation, and it would also mean people would hear about my policies, because they'd be like, who is this person? And then I could, educate them about what we should do to help our community and help everybody.
I really like that answer. Next one is from Pridyumna. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. Heidi, what are your thoughts on regulating cryptocurrency?
I'll try. Pradyumna. Okay. Regulating cryptocurrency. Yeah, Pradyumna. Pradyumna.
That sounds right.
That's beautiful. It's actually a beautiful name. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound like a good thing. Regulating cryptocurrency. I don't know a whole lot about it, to be perfectly frank, but just my off the cuff reaction is we shouldn't we shouldn't regulate something that's open source. And if the beautiful thing about it is that it's open source, I don't know if you should regulate that. I think I'd have to know a little bit more about the context of your question, but in general, don't regulate something where the beauty of it is that it's not regulated. So I think I don't want to destroy something that's, open source.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good balance to have between regulation and deregulation. What are your general thoughts on that question in general, and the level of like, how much regulatory authority should Congress have, or not really should they have, but how much of that power should they use versus how much should they leave it up to the private industries and the private market?
Yeah, some things absolutely have to be regulated, or it just becomes immoral. I think Marianne Williamson had a tweet about it where she was like, it's not that things are immoral right now, it's that they're amoral. The private market is just amoral. It's not immoral, but when it's amoral, then it leads to immoral consequences. And I think that that's what happens, is that the private market is great. Like, I don't want to destroy the private market, but it's also amoral. And that's where you need like the government to step in sometimes and be like, hey, like environmental issues, for example, we need to regulate that. There's no incentive for a large conglomerate to just suddenly cut into their bottom line and just be like, I'm just gonna, not drill here. I'm just gonna not do this. You have to regulate certain things. So I think that when it's a point where the free market has gotten out of control, if you don't regulate it, then you're going to have huge consequences that are going to become immoral consequences. So I think you have to look at each issue, just issue by issue. I can't really be like, oh yeah, you should not regulate anything or you should do this. But I think if you look at an issue like cryptocurrency, beauty in it is that it's kind of not regulated. Environmental issues, got to regulate those because no one else is going to. You just kind of look at issue by issue and decide, like, is that appropriate in that instance? Are you going to ruin it by regulating it? Whereas some things you are, and are you going to, make the world a better place by having some regulation because things are getting, immoral because like there's no one stepping in.
Thorium says, yes, Heidi absolutely gets it. And since his name is Thorium, and someone also asked about thorium earlier, what are your thoughts on renewable energy? Should if you were elected to Congress, would you go for, oh no, my light just went out. Would you go for more kind of focusing on solar or wind, or do you think the government should take a significant investment into nuclear sources that are less harmful to the environment, such as thorium?
I think both. I mean, I think that we should absolutely increase solar, like by a lot, and we should definitely look into nuclear and thorium as well. I think that we need to look at everything that makes sense and not not use old mindsets to limit us. So I think that if it makes sense, if we should put solar everywhere, I mean, look at how much of the country is a desert, and there should be solar everywhere. That would help a ton. And wind, I mean, as well, it's great. And water power. And then, of course, why would we leave out nuclear? I mean, to me, that's just old thinking being pushed onto us now, and we have to be better than that. So if it's thorium, then great. I would support that as long as we have the proper safety measures and we have the right people working on it. Then I'd support anything that moves us in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. When you say older thinking, what do you mean by that? Do you mean and kind of the idea that nuclear energy is very dangerous, which I mean it obviously is, but that it's something that it should just be completely thrown away?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's reasons for that. There was obviously, incidents and Chernobyl and all kinds of things that went on with nuclear and things not being done properly that made people very fearful of it. So that's understandable. But I think like the old thinking is almost like this Cold War mentality type of thinking about it that I think is just kind of like needs to go away. Like my campaign theme is a new generation of ideas, because I think that people from my generation are ready to bring their ideas forth. And we're ready to do that because we realize that the old thinking isn't working. Like most people are stuck in the past in this Cold War mentality still. Like we're still talking about US versus Russia in this very, dystopian kind of weird 1980s movie way, where you're just like, what are you talking about? Like, let's just focus on like what's actually going on. And so I just think that this old type of thinking transfers into so many different areas, and nuclear is one of them. And there's a lot of other areas where it's just like new ideas, man. Like let's move forward. Like what's the current science? What's going on right now? Not in 1980.
Yes, just focusing on the actual solutions and not maybe ideology so much, long-held ideology. Just trying to think of what will work for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's say you were in Congress right now, and this related to the coronavirus pandemic. Do you think the U.S. should be limiting profit from manufacturing of life-saving equipment such as ventilators? I guess that also refers back to kind of regulation, especially during a crisis. It's a tricky balance, but what do you think?
What does the question mean exactly? Can you paraphrase that for me, Matt?
I think it was Judy who asked. Basically, all the ventilators that are needing to be produced because of the crisis. Should companies still be making profit on that, or in your eyes, or should because it's a emergency scenario, should they just be manufacturing it
Mhm.
and giving it to the states or the federal government.
Yeah,
No
okay, I
profit
understand
margin.
now. I just want to make sure I was answering the right question.
Mhm.
But
At least
yeah,
that's how
no.
I understood it.
Yeah, no, they should be giving them away. I mean, if somebody has the ability to manufacture these, I mean, it's not the most simple thing. They are kind of slightly advanced. It's not crazy advanced, but as long as they have the capability to do it, I think that this is a time for that good old corporate charity trickle down that we're supposed to be getting. Like, where's the part where the free market steps in, at some point to do something about it? Yeah, so we should definitely make sure that everybody gets these, and no profit needs to be made during a pandemic. That's just off of people's lives, and I'm generally against a for-profit healthcare system anyway. So I think that people should make money if they work in healthcare for sure, but it should be based on value and not, just straight profit off of people that are sickly and dying, because that's it's clearly immoral. So yeah, just cut it off, figure out a way to get people what they need right now, and we can work it out later with tax breaks if you want, or if you want to go that route or whatever. But for now, we need to, just go ahead and give everybody what they need.
Mm-hmm. On a separate topic, what do you think has there been any obstacles as someone who's running as a grassroots candidate in your own race in terms of money and who could you share, I guess, also a little bit more about your individual race? Is it an open primary? Is there an incumbent, and who the other candidates are?
Yeah. So there's been a ton of obstacles being a grassroots candidate. I think that's like basically all it is obstacles, because you don't have money, which is sort of the definition of a grassroots candidate. You rely on small donations, and you don't have corporate funding. So that's highly difficult, especially when you're up against an incumbent, which I am, who does have corporate funding, takes money from corporate PACs and doesn't have any cash flow problems because, she never really has to campaign. She pretty much wins really strong. She's really strong, actually. She wins by a huge, massive margin every time. So who's running is Suzanne? Yeah, exactly. So who's running is Suzanne Bonamici. She's been in there for 8 years. So she's pretty strong. She pretty much always wins without any issues. It's a closed primary. You have to be a Democrat to vote. There's no runoff type of thing, like where the top 2 people move on to the general. It's just winner take all. The other people running are Ricky Barajas. He ran last time. I don't know how much he's campaigning. I haven't seen a lot, but and then there's Amanda Sieb, who is campaigning. She's a disabled rights activist. I really like her a lot. She's really cool. And she's running more on the Justice Democrat. She's more like a Bernie type person. And so I'm taking the Yang Gang slot and running on universal basic income first and foremost. We did do a massive round of text banking and got a ton of good feedback. Actually, just very simple text to voters. And this is Heidi. She's an outsider. She's a normal person running on universal basic income, universal health care. Would you support her? And got a ton of really, really good responses. So really positive feedback coming out. So there's definitely a possibility of a huge upset. We have some cool things in the works, but money is tough.
Absolutely.
Because people come to me with like the coolest marketing plan ever, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. How much is it? And I'm like, crap. Okay, well, we got to raise some money. Like, who knows some rich people? Like, does anybody know any rich people?
Are there any anyone that is not worried about the economic effects from coronavirus at all? Would you be willing to drop money during this interview right now?
In a bunker? Are you out there?
I'll do a special on this podcast only for the live audience. If anyone donates $100 right now to Heidi's campaign, and emails the receipt to zachamatcho@gmail.com, we will give you a signed math hat that I have.
What?
So if you want a signed math hat and you have a little bit of hard-earned money that you'd be willing to donate to help one of our grassroots Yang Gang candidates, that math hat can be yours.
Wow, that's dope, you guys. You should take him up on that. Those are gonna be worth a
Exactly.
lot one day, man. Like tomorrow, those are gonna be worth a lot. Yeah.
But, the reason I wanted to hear about kind of your perspective on how money influences the race is because Ted asks if obviously with all these policies that Andrew championed and that now you're embracing, ultimately there's such a lobbying machine in Washington, and just like money rules elections, it rules re-elections. So a lot of Congress is incentivized to listen to the conglomerates and not the people.
Yeah.
Which is why policies such as democracy dollars and removing private incentives would potentially be useful. I assume you would be supporting democracy dollars.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, democracy reform is one of my top 3 policies, and it's pretty much just ranked choice voting and democracy dollars right now. I do have some other ideas, but democracy dollars is way up there. I mean, we have to get rid of, this lobbying funding of elections via, special interests, and we have to put it back into the hands of the people. Quickest way to do it is obviously put money in people's hands that they can actually use to donate to campaigns. Pretty sure if all my supporters had democracy dollars, I would have a lot more money. I mean, just even if you look at my Twitter followers, like if you just multiplied that by 100, I mean, they probably wouldn't give all of it to me, but like that would be a crazy amount of money. I wouldn't even need that much. Like I literally just need I think if I had like $100,000, then that would make a huge difference, because I could literally send mailers to every single Democrat. I could hit every single Democrat on Facebook. I could do all of that. So I'm going to be limited now because of money. And that's a huge problem for grassroots candidates, for people with a good idea. Because the thing is, if I was like a corporate candidate, let's just say I was somebody else and I was a wealthy attorney, which is most people that run for office, then cool. I would just call my rich friends. I'd be like, yo, I'm running for Congress. Give me $2,800, man. They're like, okay. And then they do that like 10 times, and then I can get my campaign started. Yeah, and then I go to like
it's crazy in terms of the battle that just I think normal everyday people face when they want to serve their communities, because as you said, if you're connected, you can just call up 25 people, 25 times 2,800. Suddenly, you're facing a mountain, and it's a tough one to overcome. But hopefully, one of these candidates like yourself that are running is gonna break through the ceiling in terms of the grassroots movement. It's definitely happened with what Bernie Sanders did in 2016, and there's no reason that the Yang Gang can't do it again over the next 4 years.
Absolutely.
Someone had a question here, or maybe they didn't. Oh, I had a question. Who is a role model for you besides Andrew Yang, of course, who has kind of inspired your life and influenced your thinking in areas of politics or just human philosophy and how people should be treated and that type of thing?
I have a lot. It's a little bit tough to kind of narrow it down, but I'll go with let's see. Somebody that I really like that I've followed for quite some time. This is kind of off the wall, but is Tim Ferriss. I really love his material. I love his philosophy. I've loved his evolution and transformation over the years. I first picked up his book, A 4-Hour Workweek, when I was graduating from college and the economy was going, into the toilet. And I picked it up, and that's part of what spurred me to look up teaching English actually abroad. Was he was in there. It was like, okay, like there were all these concepts in there, and it was like you can work less and make the same amount of money or less money, but you just reduce your lifestyle and make your lifestyle really about what you really care about. And I think that kind of goes along with universal basic income and those concepts. But this is where it started. It started with me getting into his book, The 4-Hour Workweek. Oh, I can make my own lifestyle. Like I can actually set up my life the way I want it and what's important to me. And I was like, cool, this is so great. Let me see what I can do. And I was like, oh, he says here you can like teach English. Maybe I can do that. And I was like, wow, I can do it. And it's so fun. It's so awesome. And my living expenses are so low in Asia that I can do all these cool things and travel and have so much free time because I only work, 25 hours a week instead of 40. Because they value teachers there and they're willing to pay us that much to do that. So that's kind of like, he started that with me. And then his other materials, his podcast, I really love. He talks to people that are, kind of outsiders, that are, the anomalies that basically, I really think you should have Andrew Yang on, to be honest, but he just talks about two people that do crazy things and that wouldn't be expected. And that's what I love about humanity, is just like how someone can just do something and come out of nowhere and, win and make a huge difference. And that's kind of the story that I would like to have. So, it's so inspiring to me, his materials, his books. Now he's become more of a Stoic, and more of his new books are about, how to improve your life and actual philosophy. So I love Stoicism and Ryan Holiday. So that kind of led me down that chain of my mindset of trying to be the best I can be, improve myself, and live like a really nice lifestyle that I really enjoy and that I like. And I think something like UBI just makes so much sense in line with that. So I would say shout out to Tim Ferriss, because you really did change my life.
That's awesome. I think it was Adrian also really loves the 4-hour work week.
Awesome, Adrian.
Predumnia has another question about education, and he wanted to know, when it comes to improving education, should we be borrowing from the Finland education system? I don't know how familiar you are with the Finland education system, because I'm not either.
Okay.
But he followed up and said that Finland is #1 in math and learning. So I guess what my question would be is, what can the U.S. How should the U.S. education system be different to try to move our students and put them in a place where American children can be #1 in math and science? And I think you may have some unique perspective on this, since you did teach English overseas. So
well, Asia gets a lot of things right. I'm sure Scandinavia and countries in Europe do as well. And I think if we put everything together, we could come up with something really cool. Sadly, we're doing none of that. And we have the same education system that we've had since the 50s. Like, it's just, so what I think, what I'm really passionate about is language learning. I really think we need American children to be learning languages from preschool on, so that they can be multilingual. I think that that's one area that increases math skills, reading skills, empathy, cultural awareness. There's so many different music. There's so many things that language is tied to. So that's one thing that I think we really need to focus on. And they do it so well in Asia. Like, the kids are, always learning English. And that's why there's more English speakers in China now than anywhere else. I mean, there's more people that speak English in China than any other English speaking country, and all of them combined. So they did that on purpose. They're not messing around. They know that they want their next generation to be global citizens, because they know that that's important, and you're not going to be able to make it if you stay within your country. And that's where we really are missing the mark. We're really just focused on just being American, and it's not working. We need to be a part of the global community so we can, be open-minded and have good policy. So I'm not sure about the Finland system, definitely interested in looking that up, but I'm open to, us totally revamping our education system, because right now we're so focused on standardized tests that the kids aren't learning. And we're just so focused on how do we make sure that the right schools are getting funded, and we got to have these tests, and the teachers have to be focused on tests all the time. And it's out of hand. So I would reduce the standardized testing dramatically. Focus more on holistic learning and looking at the whole child, what the actual child actually needs. That's the type of teacher I was. I would always get to know each student, never prejudge them, make sure that they did well in my class in some manner. And we've gotten away from that. We're just all if you don't get this score on this test, you're a bad student.
Yeah.
And that's so wrong.
Sends the wrong message to kids, for sure.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. So every student, every child is a good student, in something. We're all good at something. I've never met anybody that's not good at something. Like I just really haven't. There's
Everyone has a
something.
unique talent and unique ability.
Yeah, you dig around, you find that they're awesome at, whatever, music, or they can fix anything, or, there's just something that each student has and that's innately human about them that you can bring out in a beautiful way and have them feel like they're valued, in the school system, instead of just sit down and learn this material in some crazy way. And if you can't get it, then, you're just a bad student or you're not smart. And that's just, I don't know, the concept is just wrong. So I think Asia gets some things right. Some things they get a little bit off to me. I think that they could be more like European in certain aspects. So I think if we combine those and really focus on it, unfortunately, like I said, we're doing none of that. We're doing neither.
Yeah.
We're just like,
that's why we need new representatives. We need a new batch of leaders in Washington. Related to education, George wants to know, how do you feel about offering more options in schools for technical jobs and construction apprenticeships?
Absolutely. I mean, we definitely need to do that. If I would have gone into a technical field, like my life would look a lot different right now. And I know a lot of people that, should have done that. So we should increase that. We should have a technical track in high school as opposed to just a college track or just graduating from high school and that's it. Like we should have that track set up, and then we should move people into community colleges. My idea is to have free community college like Andrew's and have that focused a lot on the trades, and also knocking out lame general education requirements that you shouldn't be paying 40 grand for at a university. So.
And another thing related to education that I wanted to ask you about, especially since this is another thing that you and so many others in your generation have experienced with the student loan debt crisis. What do you think the solution there should be? Should it be, there's really three options. There's the do nothing option, which is like about the Republicans. There's the Andrew Yang option, where you relieve some of the student debt, and then there's the last one where Bernie, and I think maybe it was Warren, wanted to relieve all $200 trillion of student debt. Where do you fall in that question?
Somewhere between Andrew and Bernie Warren, I guess, because I think that a lot of the student debt that exists right now is predatory in many different ways, and was basically, people were sold a lie, and they were also price gouged massively. Like there's no reason an education should be that expensive, So I think that I would be okay with relieving all of it that currently exists, and then working to bring down the costs at the same time, similar to what Andrew proposed, and getting rid of the bloated administrative costs that universities have and lowering those dramatically. And then having free community college. I wouldn't go as far as free four-year universities, but I would go as far as dramatically lowering those costs and making sure that we get rid of all the bloating that's in there, because there's no reason tuition should be that expensive. We got to lower that, and then we can look at, opening that up a little bit more. But it's just it was so predatory. I have like $60K in student loan debt, and it's insane. Like I think I had applied for a PhD program that was like an online PhD program, and I just had like a conversation with an admission counselor about it, and I was like, so okay, like what's the program? And they went through it. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, what's the cost? They're like, oh, it's going to be $120,000. And I'm like, okay, so do you guys have like what are the job prospects? Like, do you guys have like a like a job guarantee or something with that? Like, and they're like, oh, well, no, we don't really know anything about that. And I'm like, so you're going to literally take over $100,000 from somebody and have no way to guarantee that they're going to get a job. I think that you need to have a job guarantee. Like you see with the tech boot camps now, where they have a job guarantee, or you don't get paid. Like they're not going to, like you don't get paid back if you can't get this person a job. If this isn't a viable thing that you're going to do to make money, then don't charge that much or guarantee a job. It's insane.
Do you think maybe that society in general should just put less of an emphasis on college?
Well, there's a lot of cool things about college. Like I think a lot of people that I don't think that you need to go to college or anything like that, but there's some really cool things that happen in that environment. Like, first of all, you're in between being a kid and you're in between being an adult, you know, with like tons of responsibilities. So you have that like really sweet spot where you're just kind of figuring everything out. And this is a time where you should get to know a lot of different people, cultures, have some cool experiences away from your parents. Like it is a cool thing to do. So I don't think necessarily we should like move away from higher education, because I still think it's nice, but it's not for everybody at the same time. You know, it's not everybody's path. Not everybody wants it, and not everybody would benefit from it. And mainly it's just because it's too expensive and there's no value in it. And everything is based on economic value right now. So I think that if we changed our mindset, like if we just changed our mindset to like, hey, college is this really cool time, and you know, where you're not quite an adult yet with tons of responsibilities, and you can learn about other cultures and just take like a random cool class and be like, what is this? And if we made it like a cool educational time, and we had something like a basic income and people could do it because you don't have bills and expenses quite yet, like a mass amounts when you're 18. So you could be like, yeah, cool, I'll get my UBI, I'll go to community college, I'll take my gen eds, and then I'll decide if I want to go to a 4-year, or maybe I'll do a technical program, and then I'll just, you know, become an apprentice or something with somebody, and I'll get a job as an electrician. But I had this cool little period where I met these people that I never would have met from different cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities. And now I feel like a little bit more well-rounded, and it's pretty cool. So there's an important factor to it that I don't think society should get rid of, but I also don't think we should focus on it completely, because not everybody wants it or needs it.
Yeah. I kind of fall into the latter category. Like I'm 20 years old. I didn't go to school, but I do definitely think that one of the things that I would have appreciated from college would have been just the experiences that you pick up, and it helps you grow as a person.
Yeah, it's super important. Yeah.
I want to switch topics a little bit. What is the gun culture like in your district?
People are pretty pro-gun in Oregon in general. So it's a very weird mix. Like I've lived in California, Arizona, and Nevada, and Oregon. And Oregon is very strange because you do have like very, very gun-toting, very proud, like, you know, NRA sticker type people that you might think of as more Arizona or more Nevada, mixed in with like very liberal, like Democrats that, you know, are just like blue no matter what type of people, and then intermingling. And, you know, so I would say that the gun culture is pretty pro-gun in general. It's weird. I think it's just that Oregon's kind of a bit more libertarian, a bit more about freedom and kind of doing your own thing. So kind of more like a maybe New Hampshire-esque vibe. But it's just sort of, there's so much rural community that people, if you live out in the middle of nowhere, like you kind of want to have a gun. I don't know. Like it's just like, like you don't want to, like, it's different in the city. I think that people on the left are like, a lot of them live in cities. So they're like, you want to have a gun? What are you going to do? You're going to like kill somebody? You're going to go rob somebody? It's like, no, I like live out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm just going to like, you know, maybe go like kill an animal and eat it for like X amount of time. Or I'm going to just go out and shoot like something just random because there's nobody around. Or I just feel creeped out because I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And if somebody comes at me, like I don't have the cops that I can call or people around that I can scream. I'm going to want to protect myself. So I think it's a cultural thing. And there's a ton of rural community here.
So that leads into my next question. As a Democrat, what do you think the solutions are to ongoing mass shootings and the increase of mass shootings and gun violence? What do you think specifically? What type of gun safety measures should be taken? Like, would you be in favor of something like the assault weapons ban, or do you fall a little bit more moderate in terms of like what Andrew was talking about with mandatory gun, or not mandatory? I apologize. Voluntary gun buyback.
Yeah.
Kind of the what do you call it? The safety print. Of this, I forgot what it's called. Somebody in chat should remind me.
Yeah, I love those policies actually. Yeah, I I pretty much subscribe to what he's saying about guns. It's always a difficult thing because I have a lot of friends and family that love their guns. I'm not like a super gun enthusiast, but I don't want to take away their gun from them because I know that they're good people and I know that they don't mean to harm anybody. I think that the gun violence problem is a different problem. I honestly don't think it's a gun problem. So what I think is like, I do really like Andrew's idea of a voluntary buyback program. Give some people some cash. If they want to get rid of their guns, it'll reduce the amount that are out there. And then also, of course, I love using technology to make guns safer. And I love the idea of having that imprint. I thought that was a really cool idea. So I really like it. I think that he falls in somewhere of a moderate kind of nuanced approach, which I subscribe to as far as that goes. I support the Constitution. I'm a big fan of the Constitution, and I think that it was put in there for a reason. The Second Amendment's there for a reason. And our problem that we have right now with gun safety is a different problem. I think a lot of it is economic. People feel desperate, sad, they get depressed, they don't have good social outlets. Like, we need to actually rewrite our social contract in this country to be more positive and open and accepting and loving, and have things like universal basic income, and have people feel like they're taken care of and that they're loved and cherished, and give them mental health access. People need mental health access. Like, it's a serious thing. And I think that if we can change kind of the fabric of what we're looking at, then we're not going to see people wanting to do these types of things. I mean, this is coming from such a sad, desperate situation. And none of the people I know that have guns are at any risk to society. So it's something else going on there. It's really not the guns.
Yeah, I completely agree with that take. And I wonder also, how much do you think that mental health factors into it?
Massively. I mean, massively. I mean, the problem is that the way we've set up our society leads to mental health problems. Like, you have to like work to the bone just to barely get by. And that causes you to be stressed out, not get good sleep, not take care of yourself, not have good health in general. And that leads to mental health issues. And it just does, just the framework of our society, the stress that we're put on, even since we're children, to like perform and do well, that hurts that hurts us. And there's a lot of mental health issues, and it's just a real problem. And with humans, like, humans are not meant to live in this type of setup. Like it really like turns up our stress response. Like, everything that we have to do makes us so stressed out that of course we're going to have mental health problems. So everybody needs to have access to a counselor. Like, everybody needs somebody to talk to, and it should be easy and free. And we could do it over video chat like this if we want to. Like, it works. And we have the technology, and we have people that want to do this work, this important work, and would be glad to do it. And we should subsidize that and like definitely get people, mental health access all the time, because it's so important. And just talking to somebody and working through that with a professional is necessary, and it would stop a grand portion of crime and other things that we're seeing, as long as we pair it with something like universal basic income and address these economic problems as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to lead into. I was going to ask, how much do you think universal basic income would help alleviate a lot of the mental stress and anxiety and
so much
financial security?
So much. I mean, that's the main thing, is like, income is huge. I mean, that's the main thing, that's our lifeblood. I mean, you can't have capitalism and not have a steady source of income. And so many people are just a couple steps away from having no income, being homeless, like being completely, in poverty. Like, they're just like one job loss away. That's stressful. That's depressing.
Absolutely.
And that makes you take jobs that suck, that depress you even more. And that's not cool. Like, it's not right. Like, it's just like, that's not how humans should be living. Like, humans are awesome. Like, we have so much potential. We're so creative. We're so loving. We're so, we have all these good factors, and we're just pushing out only, the bad qualities of ourselves, I feel like sometimes. And so if we have something like UBI, it creates this like beautiful thing, to where people don't have to worry about that anymore. And you get up in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right now, we're just all at the bottom. We're all at the base. And we need to start moving up so that we can actually become who we're meant to be.
For those who are agree with that argument and are kind of receptive to UBI, but perhaps have some questions about it, like would it cause inflation? Would people not want to work? Should the Jeff Bezoses of the world get it? How would you quell those concerns?
Yeah, I mean, inflation, I think it's been shown that that just doesn't happen at the rates that we think it will. I mean, we've printed money so many times. At this point, literally just printed it and put it into corporations and bailed out banks and all these things that are supposed to be like free market. It's supposed to be, okay, you didn't make it, you failed. We put money into it, and then we haven't seen the rampant inflation from those things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really buying the inflation argument. I mean, I think it's old. It's old thinking. It's old economic theory that doesn't apply to the way the economy works now. As far as people not wanting to work, I mean, the thing is, people don't want to work because they hate their jobs. Like, people do want to do stuff. Like, people want to work on something. Like, I've never met anyone that doesn't want to work on freaking something.
You
like,
can only sit around and twiddle your thumbs, eating junk food, watching TV for so long before you look around and you're
and even if they did do that, like, so what? Maybe that stops them from becoming a criminal, or something. If they had no money coming in, maybe that stops them from doing something horrible or just becoming like a bad person because they're, they don't have any money and they don't feel any security. Maybe that's okay if that person just sits there and reads books and does nothing, and doesn't harm anybody or themselves. I mean, that's okay too. And like, eventually, they're going to want to do something. Like, maybe they, they're going to want to do something. So I think it's so important that we realize that humans want to do stuff. We were born to create. We want to create something. Everybody does. Everybody wants to create something, whether it's, just have a child and be an awesome mom to that kid, or maybe you want to create a YouTube channel like, Zach and Matt, or maybe you want to run for Congress, or maybe you want to like create some graphics for Yang because you think he's awesome. Like, we're so creative and we want to do things, and we should be able to do them. And so many beautiful things will spawn out of something like that work will get done. People will work. Like, the work will just start to change and evolve and become more creative and open, and people won't be like, you won't be able to have somebody do a crappy job anymore. Like, if somebody's like, I'm only going to pay you $7 an hour to do this really crappy job, and you're like, I'm good. Like, I get my UBI. I'm not doing that job. Like, think of something else. What else you got? And they're like, okay, crap. Like this. What do you want to do? Oh, I want to do this for you. Okay. Yeah. Like that kind of thing can open up once people don't feel so desperate.
Mm-hmm. What about that last one there? In terms of why should the uber rich get it, or even just wealthy Americans? Why should it not just go to people who need it the most?
Well, it's mainly just because means testing is horribly bureaucratic, and there's no like good cutoff point, and people can just like game those types of systems. So it's mainly just like ease and simplicity, and it doesn't matter if somebody that's a billionaire gets UBI because they're contributing to society. Like, that person didn't become a billionaire just like for absolutely, no reason. And that billionaire is spending money in the economy. They're buying the yachts and all of that, the big expensive luxury items, which is one reason why I'm in favor of a higher luxury VAT to help fund the UBI. Mm-hmm. Because then there's less concern with that. If you have a luxury VAT of like 20%, then suddenly things become like there's so much more funding available. And it's like, who cares if Jeff Bezos just bought a freaking rocket and paid a 20% VAT? like who cares? Like, that $1,000 is literally like a fraction of a penny to that dude. Like, it doesn't even matter. And they can always opt out if they like really don't want it.
Or donate it. And honestly,
donate it. Like, donate it.
I feel like if Jeff Bezos were to come out and say, hey, I'm going to give my $1,000 a month to this charity, every single month, he's going to end up getting more free publicity out of it than just keeping the money from media.
Everybody knows somebody that needs help. That came up in this whole emergency UBI thing where people were like, well, why should I get it? Like, I don't need it. Or why should my neighbor get it? They don't need it. And it's like,
then donate it.
They know somebody that needs it. Like,
exactly.
Knows somebody that needs it. Like, or you could just go online on your social media and be like, Who needs $1,000? Like, I'll give it away. That would be a
Yeah,
sweet social
that's
media account.
Andrew Yang style.
That would be a sweet social media account. Like, you could start a social media account just based on that. You'd be like, yeah, I give away my basic income every month. That's all I do here. Like,
yeah,
like just retweet
that'd
this and I'll do
be
it.
fun. You gotta decide how you're gonna break it down. $5, $10, $20 little mini grants to people, making people happy. But yeah, it's it's unfortunate. I think that some people can't see the bigger picture in terms of why should we penalize 95% just because maybe the top 5% don't actually need an extra $1,000 a month. And what you said with the means testing, you know, when you have to take the time to look at all the 330 million people in the country and see, oh, who's making this amount and who's making this amount. That's why some of these coronavirus stimulus checks aren't going to reach some families all the way until September, and they need that money now, and it's tragic.
I mean, it's got to be on purpose. It's just crazy at this point. I'm just like, you're doing this on purpose. Like that 2.2 trillion, like where did it go? Like you're literally leaving people out in the dust on purpose and creating so many barriers to make it impossible for the people that need the help to get it. And it's so simple. Like you can literally just give people money. You can literally just do it. Like I swear, like, and like, it's so easy. Like 2.2 trillion could have funded, a UBI pilot for like the rest of the year. Yep. I mean, we could have done all kinds of crazy, cool things with that. And most people will never even see anything. Some people will see something, in September or something, I heard, like just ridiculous. So yeah, you just don't need to do that. Usually the most simple solution is the best one.
Yeah, just give people cash.
Like it's not that difficult, people. Like, put the money in our hands.
I think we've kind of hit everything. There is except maybe a little bit on drug reform and foreign policy. I want to ask.
We can talk about that real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask about foreign policy real quick. What do you think America's role is overseas?
Right now, it's pretty bad. I mean, as somebody who's traveled abroad, spoken with a lot of people in other countries about their perception of the U.S., it's not good, people. Like it's not good. Like we intervene and cause problems all over the place. That's right, Danny. Put the money in our hands. So I've been pretty much anti-war, for quite some time. I'm not a fan of our interventionist style and our complete takeover of the Middle East for obvious financial gain. And the military-industrial complex, which was first warned to us by Eisenhower, a Republican, warned us about this as he was leaving because he was like, this is about to get crazy. This is not right. Like, we should not be doing this much with the military. Like, this is bad, and this is going to lead to bad things. And that, peace out. I'm out. That's the last thing I'm going to say. So you got to take that serious. So I think that we should be less interventionist. We need to be a leader in the world. We need to actually go in and do some cool things, some exciting things, like help people set up a green infrastructure. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool thing the military could do. They could do it. They're already there. Like we could set up some really cool things for certain parts of the world. We could stop intervening in every little thing that happens and reduce the military budget. We should spend less on these weapons and finding really cool, creative ways to kill people, really expensive ways. I mean, that is not where I want my tax dollars going. And that's where a ton of them go. And you have veterans on the street, homeless and addicted to opiates.
Yep.
And you're not taking care of them with that money. And that is wrong. I don't want to pay for another of your lame wars. Like, stop the wars, bring the troops home, take care of them for a change. Give them something cool to do that's exciting instead of killing people, that's giving them PTSD, and save our military power for when we need it, when it's absolutely necessary. Put the power back into Congress's hands and cut it out. Like, this is just, it's way out of hand.
Couldn't have said it any better. I think I was talking to a veteran who I was interviewing who was also running for Congress, and he said that 1 in 4 homeless people, I believe that was the stat, are veterans, which is just a sad statistic that the people who got put in these wars overseas, they come back and there's no adjustment cycle. There's no reverse boot camp that Andrew Yang had proposed, and it just shows the holes in our current system.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's just straight wrong. We just got to call it for what it is. We got to stop dancing around certain issues and just be like, that's wrong. We got to fix it. Like, what are we going to do? Like, come up with a plan. Fix this problem. I don't care what the plan is, as long as we're working on it and we're getting it done and we're helping people. We got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Adrian says that she was one of the people that got a $250 micro grant from Humanity Forward.
Sweet, Adrian, that's awesome.
That's amazing, Adrian. I really, truly wish that Congress in this stage 4 does monthly payments, because it would help so many people out, and they clearly have the money.
They always have the money. Yeah,
they always do. Last topic here on I guess criminal justice and drug reform. Where do you fall on the line of decriminalization, legalization of certain drugs? And I guess I'll ask about justice reform after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely for legalizing marijuana immediately. Definitely for decriminalizing opiates immediately. I do like the Portugal model. I think that it's safer, and I think that we need to take care of these people now that we've basically forced them to be addicted to these drugs. It's terrible. And in general, I'm for decriminalizing drugs. I mean, there's no reason why, come on, you have like a couple like ecstasy pills on you or something, and suddenly your life's ruined. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm definitely against the way that we've dealt with drugs. I hate some of the drug policies that came up in the 90s. I was big into underground parties. They called them raves. And Mr. Joe Biden came up with the Rave Act, or he sponsored it, wrote the bill to basically ban raves, which is super lame. And I remember I hated that. And we used to have these organizations. This is what the drug war does. It basically makes it unsafe. Like, this is so bad. So what they did is they passed the Rave Act, and then they got rid of the nonprofits. One of them was called Dance Safe. And Dance Safe was at these parties, and they would offer free services of testing pills to make sure it wasn't something, lethal poison that was going to harm you. And then also giving out free water and creating these chill rooms, which is really important when you're doing drugs, to have like a space where you can be safe and get water and relax and have somebody take care of you. And he got rid of that. And that was just horrible. And a lot of people signed off on that. All these Democrats are signing off on these horrible drug policies, and it's wrong. I mean, we need to decriminalize drugs in general and stop throwing people, in jail and crowding our jail with people with nonviolent drug offenses.
I completely agree. What do you think about psychedelics? Should those be on the legalization side or the decriminalization side?
I think that we should move to medical psychedelics would be a good route to go. I definitely think that psychedelics have medical uses. And if we move to medical first, kind of like we did with marijuana, we can do some really cool studying on how psychedelics can be used medically. I mean, you already have these people in Silicon Valley microdosing and, having these, they're just basically illegally doing it. Mm-hmm. But you could actually increase the amount of studies that we're doing on psilocybin and, essentially LSD, which is human-made psilocybin, and actually find out, what's going on with these things. Right now, you have people like Gwyneth Paltrow doing the Goop Lab stuff and people trying to do it. But I think if you made it medical and you were like, hey, this is medical and we're going to do a lot of studying on it, then I think eventually you could lead to some kind of legalization for psychedelics, because I think that they've gotten a horrible rap. And the drug war harmed a lot of people that could have been helped through psychedelic usage, as long as it's done properly and responsibly, which we could, educate people on And then that could really help them, really help people with PTSD and depression and mental health issues.
Absolutely. Adrian chimed in again. She said, Heidi reminds me of the same kind of passion you see from Katie Porter, which is a great compliment since she was one of the first to come out with UBI. That's actually all I know about her. So.
Katie Porter's from Orange County, same as me, so same area. And I really like her, so that might be why we're kind of similar. Yeah, and she's a teacher, and I was a teacher, so yeah,
awesome.
We have a lot in common.
Back to the criminal justice side of things. What do you think should be done in the criminal justice system? Like whether it's with private prisons or mandatory minimum sentences or the death penalty. Where do you fall on kind of all these hot button issues? I mean, they're called hot button issues. I don't think private prisons should be a hot button issue.
No, there should not be private prisons, first of all. What in the heck? Like, that is, like, wrong, and that's crazy. When people are there making, like, underwear and stuff and, like, crazy weird things, like, and, you know, there's just all kinds of things going on in private prisons, and they're being paid slave wages. Literal slavery is going on in prisons.
I think that's what Bloomberg was doing. He is having prisoners do phone banking.
So wrong. Like, so many levels of that are like, what is going on? So yeah, we need a complete revamp, obviously, of our criminal justice system. I mean, right now, having it for profit, that's got to go immediately. Like, that's no, like, nobody should be profiting off getting people in jail and keeping them there and getting them back in there. Yeah, that's wrong.
It's honestly, I mean, it's pretty disgusting.
It's super disgusting.
Profit of locking up a human being.
Oh God. And the punishments don't fit the crime for a lot of things. I mean, you have certain people that are like rapists or like child molesters that are just like, oh yeah, like just slap on the wrist for that. Yeah. And then you have somebody that's like, and then you have somebody that's like literally like, you know, just smoking a joint and like, like that's it, 3 strikes, you're out. Like, buddy,
yeah, it's crazy. I agree 100%.
We need to focus on rehabilitation. We need to focus on some cool programs for them, like a tech school, like, you know, things like that. Like some prisons do, you know, various things like that. And we need to up that way up. Like, you need to learn a skill. You need to, like, you know, get self-confidence again. You need to, like, figure out what you can do to help society, what's going to make you feel real good. And then, of course, yeah, when you get out, you get your UBI again, you know, and then like you have some floor to stand on. Because I talk to people over the phone as an insurance agent, and they get out of jail and they actually do qualify for Obamacare when they get out, but they have no employment and they're a felon and they can't get a job. So we need to take care of these people a lot better. How are we going to expect them to not end up back in prison?
What about that last one on the death penalty?
Yeah, I'm against the death penalty. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but I mean, just in general, I just don't think we need to be killing people in our criminal justice system. I just don't think it's something that I just don't see any benefit to it. I mean, it's actually proven that it can be more costly to have, you know, the death penalty. So even just from an economic standpoint, it's like, what? That's like, that makes no sense. And then from like a moral standpoint, it's like, that's bad because you have people that we find out they're innocent and we still kill them. What? Like it's like, that's just horrible, and we're wrong a lot of times. So I like the Life of David Gale movie. That old movie was a really good one on the death penalty that everybody should watch because it changed a lot of my perspective and, you know, made me realize that we're just not going to be right, and the state shouldn't be killing people like that.
We're running close to the end of our time here. Well, I'm talking to the audience actually, not to you.
Okay.
Because I'll refer back to you in a sec. We're running close to the end of our time here because I know we were talking about an hour, and now we're 28 minutes over.
We'll probably wrap it up.
I think it's been a good conversation so far, and the audience has been very active. They have lots of questions, so if you don't mind,
let's go through a
few
before we wrap
more
up.
minutes of your time here. Faust really likes the rug in your background or your
actually
wall
like
art.
A tapestry. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, he corrected himself. He got it.
That's okay.
And so I forget who it was. I'll look for the comment. Someone asked if you have a favorite DJ or artist. Here it is.
I kind of like deep dish. I'm a big house person, so I kind of like some of the older house. Sandra Collins, deep dish. That kind of vibe. So I was more like a late 90s, early 2000s. So things from that era. But hey, I still like some of the new stuff too. If it's like Zed or whatever else is coming out, I'll listen to it. But mostly house, and also I like drum and bass, and I really like happy hardcore, which is super obscure, and everybody that I know pretty much hates it unless they are a weirdo like myself. But I'm into happy hardcore, UK hardcore, and stuff like that. That's one of my goals, is to go to London and go to some UK hardcore shows.
Wow. Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't heard of any of those bands, but I'm not the hippest with pop culture, so
That's okay. That's okay. They're pretty obscure. Like, the things I like are a bit obscure when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think it's good for people to have obscure interests, though. It's uniqueness. It's makes people unique.
Yeah.
Predumnia asks. He said I was skipping his financial regulation question. Is way back up there, but he basically was asking about financial regulation. Predumnia, if you're still watching, would you be able to throw up that question one more time, and we'll try to get it answered before we wrap up here. And then in the meantime, guys, if you like what Heidi has to say so far, I'm going to throw the donation link in the description. Feel free to jump in and donate, whether it's just why can I not find the tab where the stream is?
Oh, even a dollar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I have support, and
just a dollar, I think a lot of people, when they donate it during the Yang campaign, they'd see people on Twitter or Reddit throwing up, these $1,000 donations, and it feels intimidating, and it feels like my just $1 or $2 that I can give doesn't matter, but it does. It really does. It's the small dollar donors.
Your $1 is like 1,000 to like a congressional candidate, like in comparison to a presidential.
Yep.
I mean, the things I can do with $1 are pretty big right now. Like, that's like maybe like 3 or 4 postcards out to my voters, that could like get 3 or 4 votes. Like, I could get actual votes with $1. So like, I can do those types of things in a congressional race.
Mm-hmm. Predumna has asked this question again. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on reinstating Glass-Steagall and auditing the Federal Reserve? He is worried about another financial crisis.
Okay. I may need to think about that a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Glass-Steagall was... Okay, that was when was that one put into order? I know there's a few different regulations that were... And then Glass-Steagall, they got rid of that in...
Glass-Steagall
90s?
was...
when did they...
Yep, it was... I'm actually not the most familiar with it myself. It looks like it was part of... a 1933 Banking Act, but most of it was repealed in 1999.
Yeah, if I recall, I would be in favor.
Predumnia just said Clinton repealed it in 99.
Yeah, I would reinstate Glass-Steagall. I believe that would be the way to go. Auditing the Federal Reserve, I don't know a ton about that. I definitely need to look into that. Predumnia, I definitely want to look into that as well. But Clinton did a lot of things that I don't agree with. He also got rid of George H.W. Bush's luxury tax, which was funding a lot of things, and he got rid of that, which I think is a huge mistake. So I think we need to go back to a lot of things that were in line before the Clinton era that were, gotten rid of for for whatever reasons.
Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of wraps it up. I think we hit every single topic pretty much, unless we missed anything, and had a lot of audience questions, which I really appreciate. Thank you, audience, for being very participatory today. Do you have a closing message for everybody here? And I'm going to spam your website link in the description as you or in the chat as you go.
Absolutely. If you're listening and you can donate, please do. If you can't, that's totally cool. You can still go to Heidi2020.com, go to Join Team Heidi, and we really need people to volunteer. Phone bank, text bank. I have some really cool things coming down the pipeline, and I have everything all set up. I just need to know how many people are ready to go and then get everything in line. So if you can help, if you like what I had to say, get involved. You can donate $1. It really helps me a lot. You can donate $5. You can tell your rich uncle who owes you something to donate $500. That'd be even cooler. Not really, but you can join Team Heidi would be awesome. So just go to Heidi 2020, learn about me, watch my videos, tell a friend. And if you're watching and you're in District 1, I hope that I can earn your vote. If you have any questions for me, go to my Twitter. I'm very active there and open to answering your questions. If you want to talk to me, I'm here and I'm a real person and I'd love to represent you.
Your Twitter is just Heidi Briones, just your name. Or sorry, Heidi Briones, just your name.
Yeah, it's just Heidi Briones. So it's just at Heidi Briones, and you can go to my Twitter. Check me out if you like what I have to say. I really appreciate your support. It makes a huge difference, and we can do some really cool things if we elect people that have some cool ideas and actually want to get things done and have lived the life experience of real, regular, normal people, and we'll represent that because it's important to them and it's personal.
For real. If you're disappointed with Congress right now and how they're doing these stimulus checks, considering doing an hour a day of phone banking or text banking this week for Heidi or as many of the UBI candidates that are out there. So which is always increasing, which is what we want to see. I want to thank you once more for coming on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation, and
thanks, Matt.
Everyone make sure you guys like the video and help with the algorithm. And then more people will see this after we end the live broadcast.
Yes, so, and then we can put the money in our hands.
Yes.
All right. Secure the bag. Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.